The beauty of this Operation Remote Resilience is that wherever you are, you can sign on and participate live for these 3 months. And then the recordings will be around for you to come to anytime. So if you want to come back to Arizona, then come back to this one. Restorative yoga can be beneficial in the evening. It seems situated just right at the end of the day to wind down and prepare for sleep, but it can also be beneficial at the beginning of your day or wherever time for practice finds you in your schedule. And I'm pleased to see that my 2 daughters who are in the Army right now have joined us live. Thank you to them for choosing this path of service, and to all of you out there. It's really a privilege to serve those who serve. So, hello and welcome to Operation Remote Resilience. My name is Jennifer Dietz, and I'm a certified Warriors at Ease teacher. Tonight I'll be leading you through, or today in my case, maybe morning in yours, I'll be leading you through a restorative yoga practice. And as I mentioned in my comments before we began officially, stress on a body is often best balanced by deep rest. And even good things can be stressful, like purchasing this beautiful little house, getting married, having a baby. All kinds of things can be wonderful and stressful. So whether the things in your life are trending in a positive direction or maybe not so positive, this time for a restorative practice might be beneficial. It'll allow us to settle into postures a little more deeply than we tend to. There won't be as many transitions or as many changes. So thank you for joining me. And if you'd like to begin on your mat or your towel or wherever you are in a seated position, then we'll begin. So I'll cross my legs. You might like to stick yours straight out in front or maybe be up on your knees. There's no right way to do it. What we're going to do first is just move a little bit to transition from where we were into where we're headed. So when you have found your seat, make sure that it is comfortable for you and your body. You see my knees are pretty high. It's just the way my body works. And so I accept that that's what that is, and that's where I'm going to begin. In your seat, make sure that you find yourself really grounded on the surface below you so you feel well supported and not off center. And as you feel yourself supported on the surface below, reach up with the top of your head so that you feel your spine lengthening. And as your spine lengthens, feel all the muscles from your neck to your hips really engage to provide support in that tall, easy posture. And once you've arrived at that tall, easy posture, well grounded, take a few moments to draw your attention to your immediate surroundings and be aware of what you need to be aware of around you in terms of who's coming and going and what the potential distractions are, so that as you close your eyes or draw your gaze inward, you won't be surprised. So in your comfortable, tall, supported seat, notice the way your breath moves in and out of your body. Maybe you can attend to the way your heart's beating right this moment. Those last thoughts that are rushing around in your head, you can notice them and let them go. You'll come back to them. And as we begin to do a little bit of gentle moving, just bring your hands down by your side, check in with the floor, place your right hand down beside your right hip and reach your left hand high. So you're stretching even taller than you were before. And you're going to imagine there's a beach ball over on your right side, and you're going to curve over and open the left side of your body from your pinky finger down to your left hip. Keep your left hip grounded. We're trying to find stretching all the way through the elbow, under the arm, along the side of the ribs, and down to the hip. We're bending our spine to the right. And with each inhale, you might reach longer, and with each exhale, settle into your fold. Try and keep your shoulders in a line so that your upper shoulder is over your lower shoulder, even as you're supporting yourself with your lower hand. And with your next inhale, really reach long through your fingers and pull yourself up through center, and in a fluid movement, switch hands so that your left hand is down by your left hip and your right hand is reaching up toward the sky or ceiling. So reach up and then bend over to the left side. So now we're thinking of our right pinky all the way through the right elbow, under the right arm, down the right side, keeping the right hip grounded, and really stretching the right side of the body without collapsing in on the left side. You can turn your gaze down or straight ahead or even up to the ceiling for slightly different sensation in this stretch to the left. When you inhale again, reach long and pull yourself back up to vertical, releasing your right hand down beside your hip. Now place your hands on your knees if you're in a folded position like mine, but even if your legs are stretched out in front or you're up on your knees, placing your hands on your knees is a good way to provide support through the next action we'll do, which is our seated cat and cow. So in order to take this shape, imagine the fronts of your shoulders coming in toward your hips, which will push your back toward the rear and let you round out like a cat that's scared on Halloween. So you support yourself with your knees and you bring your shoulders toward your hips, pushing your back. And you might rock off of your seat like I have, just to create more space for that bending. And then as you come through, think of the back of your shoulders coming to the back of your hips and opening through the front of your chest. So heart forward for your cow. I'll turn sideways so you can have a sense of what that's like as you move through this shape on your own breath. So here we curve backwards into our cow. Really feel the bending all the way through the spine. And then we move forward, opening our heart and bending the spine in the opposite direction for our cow. Now, how far forward and how much bend comes into your back is really dependent on how your body's put together. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. It's just trying to get motion going in our spine before we do some other postures. And now with your next repetition, when you come through center, pause there. And now we've bent the spine left and right, front and back. We're going to do a little bit of twisting. So sit tall in your seat, bring your hands by your side and sweep them up so that the palms face each other overhead. Your biceps are by your ears and your core is engaged. So you're still supporting that tall spine even without your hands down by your side. So leading with your hips, you're going to rotate to the right and let your shoulders follow. And when you have reached as far as your own effort will allow you to go, release your hands so that your right hand is behind your hip, your left hand is on your knee. And with an inhale, rise up in your seat. And with an exhale, ease a little bit more into that twist. And let that be a rhythm through several breaths on this right side. You breathe in and you lengthen, and you breathe out and you ease a little farther into the twist. Now don't lead with your chin. This is your spine twisting, not your neck. So there's no prize for how much or how little you twist. Sorry to say, it's just whatever's available in your body. So find what's working for your back and let that be good practice for today. Now, with the next inhale, let's come through center, release your hands and bring your back overhead. Feel yourself tall here. Maybe notice how that right side feels compared to the left. And then let's take a turn to the left. Each side might feel a little different, perfectly normal. When you've reached the extent of what your own efforts can do in that twist, release your hands. Your left hand goes behind your left hip. Your right hand goes on your knee. Rise up with your inhale. And with your exhale, ease a little more into the twist. Back through center, bring your hands up overhead. Big reach, and then release. And if you'll join me, hands and knees on the mat in a tabletop position. Well, first, so a tabletop position is when your hands are under your shoulders and your knees are under your hips. We're going to do just a quick stretch on our calves, sending the left heel back and pressing it to the back wall. Release that and send the left heel back. Now return your left knee to the mat. Bring your knees wide on the mat, your toes together, and sit back with your seat on your heels. And then reach long with your hands, lowering your torso to the mat. And when you've reached as far as feels good, lower your forehead and allow it to rest on the mat. This is child's pose. We're going to stay here for a bit. You might find it more comfortable to allow your elbows to come to rest so that your forearms are at ease on the mat. Your hips are over your heels. Your forehead is on the mat. Your shoulders are opening a little bit as your arms are outstretched. You can feel your breath coming and going. Notice the ways your rib cage expands with each breath. Child's pose is a really great one pose only break to take in your day for a restorative reset. Now, without moving much, rise up off of the mat, pressing into your hands. Release your left hand and send it over underneath your body, palm up, lowering your shoulder, lowering your temple, and leaving your right hand outstretched. This is a gentle threading of the needle, which helps to open the shoulders across the back. Let's stay here for a moment. Sometimes it takes this extra time in a posture to really relax into it and to see what rest you can obtain by just not working. You can check and see where you're holding tension and intentionally let the tension go and let gravity work on it. Right, you will press up on your right hand, bring your left out in front, and switch to the other side. I'm going to switch directions on my mat so I don't turn my back to you, but you're just going to send your right hand underneath, lower your shoulder, lower your cheek or your temple, and send your left hand long. And as with other shapes we take, one side might be different than the other. Just notice it. Press into your left hand, bringing your shoulder off the mat, bringing your right hand out in front and coming back into a tabletop position. Pausing here for a moment. We'll send our hips back one more time for child's pose. Send your knees wide, hips back, hands long. So one more time to child's pose. Now pressing into your palms, lower your elbows and bring your torso through as you let your legs come together behind you. So now we're in a Sphinx posture. Our elbows are under our shoulders. Our legs are outstretched behind us. Our forearms are flat on the mat. You can turn your palms up if you like, or palms down. And you're noticing that your hips are in contact with the floor. Your chest is opening ahead of you. So if you have your gaze to the front, the crown of your head reaching tall, you are supported on your upper arms. Your lower arms are free to move. They're just placing your hands for steadiness, again, down or up. And allowing the natural curvature of the spine to be supported. We've done a lot of forward folding, so this is a little bit of a counter stretch, making sure that we work both sides of the muscle groups. Now, if you feel yourself having a lot of tension in your hands, turning the palms up really does release that tension and allow you to experience the fact that you are supported on your upper arms. You don't have to be doing any work. Just allow your belly to sink toward the mat. Turn your palms down, put pressure into your hands, pressure into your knees, and send your hips back as you walk your hands into a tabletop position. And once you're here and stable, you can bring your hips to the mat and take a seat as we move toward our back for some additional postures before our final relaxation. So the first thing you'll do is send your legs long and ease down onto the mat any way you like. I like to just curl down. And then once you reach the mat, send your arms long and really stretch from your heels to your fingertips. Just a big stretch. Once you're there, bring your feet flat on the mat, your knees bent. Send your feet to the outside edge of your mat so your knees come together. And then bring your arms down by your side, palms up, as we take a glimpse of the final relaxation that's to come. So just settle in here for a moment to rest. For people for whom it's not terribly comfortable to lie with your legs straight out, this is a really great option to take in the final relaxation period of a yoga class. Now bring your feet together. Send your left leg long and draw your right leg into your chest, hugging it tight. And as you do, you might rock a little bit just to see what your hips need in terms of easing into this position. Take your left hand to the outside of your knee and draw your leg across, letting your hip rise, but keeping your shoulder planted. And send your right arm out to the side. Your gaze can follow your hand or can be straight up ahead. It doesn't really matter. And as you experience the twisting shape that we're currently in, compare it to the seated version. So in this case, our shoulder is supported, so we might feel a little more opening on the front side of the shoulder. We might be aware of a little more tightness across our hip as our knee doesn't come to the ground, or if it does, that it's supported there. With your next breath, take your gaze to the ceiling and then bring your right foot or your right knee back, squeeze it in, and send your right leg long on the ground. Draw your left leg in, hug it tight. Again, move around a little bit if you need to. And then find stillness. Take your right hand on your left knee, send your left hand out to the side, and draw your knee. Draw your knee across your body. Your sides might be different. I did a lot of carrying of objects yesterday, and I can feel that this is something I've needed to do. So thank you all for joining me. So again, your gaze can be toward your hand or straight up. Your knee might be like mine, not really close to the floor, but that's okay. Now bring your gaze straight up to the ceiling and rotate back flat onto the mat. Hug your left leg in and send it long. Now you have an opportunity to do a little bit of moving around before we settle into our final relaxation. I'll be talking you through a bit of a body scan and then giving several minutes of silence. But before we do that, you might want to take an extra shape, maybe a reclining bound angle where you've got the soles of your feet together and your knees are open, if that feels like a good shape to take. Or maybe you just want to hug your knees in and rock side to side for a little low back massage. Or maybe you just want to send your legs long and go ahead and settle in for our final relaxation. So when you set yourself up for this, notice the way you are supported along the entire length of your body. And once you've arranged yourself, try to release any conscious attention you're holding in your joints and just let your legs maybe fall open a little bit in your hips if that's what feels natural in your body. You know, maybe your hands are up, or maybe today you want to put them down. And as you get yourself positioned, I will be returning to a seated position as I talk you through the body scan. And then I'll meet you in seated for the conclusion of our practice. So with yourself stretched out on the mat, or perhaps with your knees folded together, notice all the places you're in contact with the surface below you. And feel how solid that is. So as you notice your toes and heels, your ankles, your arches, all the parts of your feet, if you need to wiggle them, to be mindful of the movement and then stop moving so you can feel the ease, take this moment to do that. And as I draw your attention to each of the joints coming up, that might be something to do for you to engage and then release. So as we come up the lower leg to the knee, maybe you want to lift your kneecap and sense the tension around the top of it and underneath your knee, and then ease away from that work. And as you get into your hips, again, as I said, maybe you can notice whether you're holding your legs upright or letting them fall naturally open. And then in your low back, do you feel the natural curve of your spine there? Your hips are supported. Your back is supported on the upper back, and so there might be that natural curve, allowing the air to flow. If you've arranged your knees to touch one another, you might have pressed your back close to the mat at that point, so feel that contact. And as you slowly make your way up, rib by rib, notice the way the breath comes in and fills and expands and moves, even in this posture of stillness. The breath is always something we can return to be reminded of our presence in the actual moment. When you come to your upper back, maybe you can move your head left and right, up and down, feel the tension in your neck and feel the contrast as you let that go. And as your attention travels down your arms, maybe you feel the inside of your elbow and the outside of your elbow being released of any tension. And the same for your fingers, your thumb, your wrist. And you travel back up to your neck and finally check in with where your jaw connects. Maybe move your jaw left and right. Are you aware of any tension remaining around your eyes? Can you let your eyes soften? How about that space between the eyes, around the edges of the mouth, underneath the ears? Let all your face soften. Despite my best attempt, we have reached the end of time. So if you're at liberty to, remain here in your final relaxation for as long as you have to savor the work you've done. And if you need to carry on with your day, then I thank you for your presence with me here tonight as part of Operation Remote Resilience. Please consider following the link below to make a donation so that you can contribute and support people like me serving those who serve. And for those of you who are serving, thank you very much. For those of you who have served, thank you. And for those of you who are part of the families, we thank you for your service as well. So supporters like you make it possible for Warriors at Ease teachers like me to do what we do. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope to see you next week.